Hi, I'm Dr. Mike, and this is NFGeeks. Well, this video is a Thursday theme video on the NFGeeks forum. I choose a theme and then make a video about that theme, and then encourage other members to also make a video on that theme. And this video is a video I've been trying to make for about 2 weeks. And the theme for this video is morality and ethics. And in two ways. One is just about the internet in general, and then the other way is about type, relating it to type and temperament. Okay. And I spent all of last week trying to make a video on this topic. I actually made three separate videos, 20 minutes long, so a whole hour's worth of videos. And I didn't put any of them up because I don't know, I was really tense about it, and so I felt I looked miserable, and I did look miserable, and I sounded miserable, and I just didn't like the way the videos came out. So I got rid of them. There's no NFGeeks blooper reel, but I got rid of them and waited, and it's funny how energy manifests. It's a very NF thing to say, but it's funny how energy manifests, because after that, morality and ethics has sort of been topics both directly and indirectly on the forum since then. So I felt this would be good to sort of talk about it now. Now I can get there and I can actually talk about it. So why have I picked this? Well, I'm going to start with a metaphor, and like a good NF. And it's something I talk about when I teach philosophy, and anybody who's even been in an intro to philosophy class will know what I'm getting at with this. And it's something called the Ring of Gyges. Okay, and this comes out of Plato's Republic, a book you should read and have. That's one of the ones you want to see in a bookshelf, the Republic. And the Ring of Gyges, first of all, it's based on a myth, and the myth is that the Ring of Gyges is an invisibility ring. Okay. Is that ringing any bells with anybody? Invisibility ring? Wait, it's going to get better. Also, I want you to look up the Ring of Solomon, which was a ring the king of Israel, Solomon, would use to control demons. And then you get to realize the horror that Tolkien was a hack. Yeah, that's right. So it's an invisibility ring, and it's spoken about in the Republic regarding justice and morality. It's brought up by Glaucon. Nothing says you're reading a dialogue like bringing up Glaucon, but he's talking to Socrates about it. And his position is that if you gave somebody this invisibility ring, okay, that means they'd be free from society's rules, and they would run amok. Okay, and do all sorts of horrible and terrible things, because justice and righteousness comes from the rules of society, which hold us together and keep people in check and in line. And if that was lifted, which what the Ring of Gyges would do, an invisibility ring would do, all sorts of bad things would come from that. A person would be sort of off the chains. Socrates is basically what he says is that's not true. The source of justice or righteousness is not within society, but it's in the ideal forms from reason and the dialectic, and that a truly moral person, like a philosopher king, would be able to put on the Ring of Gyges, and it wouldn't make any difference. They would behave the same way as if they didn't have it. And if there was a change in behavior, it'd be like, they would be like a superhero and fight for justice and do good things. But ultimately, none of that would happen. Okay, that's the Ring of Gyges. And I bring that up because, and this is more cynical, kind of agreeing with Glaucon a little here, is that the internet itself is a Ring of Gyges. Okay, it's a invisibility ring, or at least it turns you into a shadow, and it's not your real self. And because of that, all sorts of really questionably moral things and ethical things go on, because there's really no repercussions to it. It doesn't speak well of the populace, because nothing can happen back to you in the real world. That has opened the door for all sorts of things to take place, because you're kind of invisible. Now, granted, you're not. People say, well, my picture is on my Facebook page and all that. Yes, you're not totally invisible in that sense, but that's a shadow of you. That's not really you. Okay, really you is the flesh and the blood, and that's a shadow. It's another Platonic metaphor there. But that's not really you. It's a shadow of you, and this shadow of you cannot be punished. Okay? You cannot put a shadow in jail. You know? You can't rebuke a shadow. You know? So, you know, there's sort of the, you know, it's free from moral rules, or at least society's moral rules, and this is why all sorts of horrible things happen. You know, even on a basic level, you know, in the past, or I guess even now, you know, if you did something immoral in the town, you know, in a town, let's say it's a town or a village, you would get kicked out of the village or the town, okay? Maybe you'd make it to another village or a town, but that would be some far away, and, you know, you couldn't keep doing that because of survival or whatever. So, you know, you'd get your act together at least on a basic level, you know, as Glaucon sort of points out. The problem with the internet is that there's no repercussions like that. So, for example, you know, NFGeeks has a forum, it's like a little town. If I ban somebody, they can just go to another forum instantly. So they immediately get beamed into another town. Now that's kind of similar to what I said, but you can just keep going from town to town to town to town infinitely, all right? You know, because there's always another forum, another forum, another forum, another forum, another forum, and you can just keep going. It doesn't matter. It doesn't even have to be MBTI. It could be a forum about anything, you know, car mechanics, you know, politics, you know, it's, you know, knitting. I mean, it doesn't matter. You know, if you get banned from one forum, there's a million others. So you can just keep going. There's no repercussions from the behavior. Okay. Now I know that's nothing new. Okay, that's nothing really new with that. Maybe the metaphor is, but there's really nothing new. I want to talk about it because, at least started with the internet, because I don't like the dialogue about it, you know, because of my generation and older talk about it, and they say things like, well, you gotta control that social media because of the kids, and, you know, this is the same people who, you know, back when I was a kid said, you know, all that delinquency is because of that goddamn rock and roll and television. You know, it was just as idiotic, you know. So, saying that, I know I'm not saying anything particularly new. But what I want to talk about is why I'm saying it and then bring it up to type. And the reason why this comes up for me is that every now and then, people cut and paste conversations that are basically character assassinations of me. Okay, on, you know, throughout the internet, you know, every now and then, and you know, first of all, just the act of doing that, I have to look at is questionable, you know, because there's three types of people who do that, and then people might do it for you too. I'm just talking about my own personal experience. One is somebody who genuinely wants me to know because they want to help. I mean, because I know there's people close to me who do that every now and then, rarely, but they do it because they think I should know or whatever. They're genuine. Their intent is genuine. Those are the philosopher kings. You can give them the ring of Gyges. Okay, but those are few. Other people, and I get a lot of these, are people who don't like me and they want to stick it to me because they want me to know that this is going on. Okay, so it's like, they're talking about you, you know, kind of has that tone. You know, they're not doing it for my benefit. They want, you know, they want to give me that extra, you know. And then other people do it for what I call, let's all be in the movie, which means that they sense some kind of drama or potential drama, even if it's just tiny, and they want to play a role in the drama, in the theater of it, okay? And one of the things they want to play is sort of, you know, they think of it as heroically or otherwise, like, I'm the one who told you this important information and saved your life. You know, they want to do it for that reason. You know, and that's really, you know, questionable why they do that. And one of the ways that it's done, and this is the difficult part. Let me just say, I never asked for these things. That's the thing that always cracks me up about, is that they're unsolicited. I don't want to know. I have to tell people over and over and over, don't send me this. You know, I'm an NF. You know, I don't want to read this. And it's even on forums outside of Facebook that have nothing to do with MBTI. That's the scary part for me. Like, it's rippled out. And the thing is that the character assassination is always about, or it's not necessarily about, but what's used is my mental health to discredit me to this day. That keeps going on. That has continued to go out, and it's occurred. This is what I'm saying. Like, that thing has occurred on forums that have nothing to do with Myers-Briggs. I saw it on a history forum where they were talking about the scholarchy, and then somehow somebody knew that somebody knew that somebody knew that I had bipolar disorder, and that was used to show what a jackass I am about this idea. Okay, that's when I was like, oh my God, look what has happened here. And it really bothers me. See, the thing is, right, that's the ethical part, is the bipolar stuff, because, you know, I don't think people realize how dangerous that is with bipolar disorder, because one out of two people with bipolar disorder attempt to kill themselves. I'm not even making that up. That's real. And then 1 out of 5 people succeed and kill themselves. It's the highest suicide rate of all disorders. Okay, so it's pretty serious, talking about it, and and people reading that. I mean, fortunately, I'm on the other half of the 50%, but I easily could not be. I could easily be on the part that's thinking about killing myself. That's pretty serious. And it's like the bipolar, not the bipolar, the bullying thing, the cyberbullying thing. You don't know who's on the other side of that. So all right. So there's 2 things there. So there's the internet stuff. Again, we all know that. The mental illness stuff, which is maybe a little new about how people use that against people. Me personally, it's being used. But also how that relates to type, in a way. Because, I'm an NF. It says NF in the goddamn title. This hurts. This hurts terribly. It's horribly wounding to me. And it's not so much the humiliation of it. There's a little bit of that, but really it's that someone would do this and take the most delicate, difficult part of my life, the real struggle that I face with every day, that's very serious, and it can get life and death, and use that as a way of discrediting me or NFGeeks or whatever. I mean, it's really, really horrible, painful. I always have like a meltdown about it, at least for a little while, where I'm deeply sad and cry and get very upset, and then I suck it up. We'll talk about that. But it's incredibly painful. I mean, fortunately, I have a thicker skin than some other NFs or people with bipolar disorder, but I easily couldn't, and it does hurt. I mean, it genuinely hurts every time. Terribly, hurts terribly. It's that introverted feeling thing. Nobody realizes how we in the INFPs are so wounded by things. Them worse than ENFPs, but ENFPs get wounded because of this way, and nobody seems to get that. Terribly wounding. So all right. So let me talk about type for a little bit. And so I was thinking about how are the different temperaments, morally questionable when they're doing morally questionable things like hurting people on the internet. How are they doing it? What's their usual way? And that's what I was thinking about. Okay. So we'll go through all 4. We'll start with the NFs. The NF way is to just really go for people's weakness in terms of their emotional selves. Go for the jugular. The stuff on the inside that really makes people crazy, and go after that. Okay, that's what we look for. So they're not going to criticize you behaviorally. They're going to say things like, well, you wouldn't be this disorganized if, you weren't molested. It'll go right for like the worst thing. Because you didn't deal with that trauma, and it's why you're an alcoholic, and just it'll zero in right on the most harmful, painful, terribly wounding thing. Because we can see that. We know where your wounds are, and we go right after them. I've said this before. The worst pain that an NF can suffer is from another NF. NF on NF violence is the worst for an NF. It's like, fighting with rapiers in your underwear. There is no shields. There's nothing. Every hit hurts hard, causes blood to come out. So that's terrible. And it's a misuse. All the types or temperaments, immoral ways, are a misuse of the power that's been given unto every temperament. You know what I mean? That's something that's similar. We're going to see through all 4. It's a misuse of power. So again, the NF is to go for the jugular, and also it's always in an irrational sort of clawing, as a reaction. And our reaction is to find the weakest emotional place you are. It's terrible. What a terrible thing to do, and hit that. And look, I've done it. I have absolutely done it. I have done it a bunch of times. Okay, I don't hold back. I don't think that because I'm saying this that I'm not guilty. I am absolutely guilty. Okay, I have done this with lots of people. Okay, NFs, everybody. So that's the way we do it. We look for your weakness and hit it. Okay, or try to hit it. That's what we're going for. Your emotional weakness, not your physical, not even your behavioral. The inferiority complex, that horrible thing that's bothering you all the time that we can sort of sense or directly sense, that's what we go after. Now, NTs, what I found is that NTs are plotters, okay? They concoct plots, of revenge. And granted, the NTs, most NTs I know, when they're upset, do plot and strategize a revenge, but most of them don't act on it. Okay, at all. It just sort of stays in their head, and they kind of like, well, I could do this if I wanted to. It just sort of stays in there. However, there are NTs, or when NTs get really sort of knocked off their center and very angry or very hurt or whatever, will enact the plot. Okay, they will enact the plot. And sometimes they'll enact the plot and it will work out the way they designed it. Okay, that's not always a good thing. I mean, either way, it's not always a good thing. Enacting the plot and it coming out wrong will still have consequences. Okay, very hurtful, painful consequences. And because NTs being the way they are, they're thinking sort of cold and dispassionately, they'll keep carrying it out. I mean, you know what I mean? They'll suddenly realize there are these consequences, you know, or halfway through they'll realize it, you know, because they're thinking ahead. But that won't stop them from doing it, from going all the way through with the plot. And then the worst of all, the NTs who have thought of all that and they don't care, and they've moved all the pieces, and they did these awful things, and that's fine. You can see that in the difference between NF and NT is that NTs think all the way through, and you can see that any kind of really awful thing that an NT has ever done, it's thought out. All the way through, and there's sort of a strategy behind it. Even if it's dark and twisted, there's still a strategy behind it. Whereas NF, there's less of a strategy. There's more of a way of getting at people, but there's, it's a lot of times just a backlash. You know what I mean? It's an explosion coming out. It's not as thought through as an NT. So plotting, okay, that's a revenge plot that they act out. Okay, for SJs, I would say it's an abuse of the law. Rationalized through we're just doing our job following the law. Okay, so it's within, they have a position of power, and they do something within that position of power that they think that is within their scope of balance, with society. A good example of this, and look, I'm pro cop. I think cops are good people. Everyone hates a cop until you need a cop, but that's how cops act. Morally, SJ cops anyway, is it's okay to do things because I'm acting within the rules, and it's you who's breaking the rules. There's this judgment, you're breaking the rules, therefore you deserve it, and I'm within my rights because I have this power. Okay, so for example, on the internet, this was on CNN, cops threw this woman into a cell. Now, she may have been a jackass before that, who knows, but she gets thrown into a cell. She bangs her head because the thing you sit on or lay on is all steel, you know what I mean? It's not a bed. So she bangs her head or something. I don't know what happened after that. I just saw it briefly. But, I'm sure if these were SJ cops, they felt fine. She's out of line. She's a criminal. She's the one who did wrong. I'm just, she's giving me crap. She needs to go in there. Boom, in you go. That's SJ, I think. And SP is scheming. Okay, they're not plotters, but they're schemers. They're always trying to run a little scheme, a little scam, to get a little thing, when they're acting immorally. My uncle was an ESFP, and he used to shoplift. And he would shoplift and then try to talk himself out of it when he got, when he got caught, and sometimes he would, do that. So it's this little scheme that they're always running, And on some level, it's justified in their mind, but still, they're schemers, okay? Because it's in the moment, trying to get something, get around the rules and, sort of shim-sham and, get through, okay? So that's the temperaments, I think, how they do that. So I want to say one last thing before I end here, and that is what I think the nature of evil is. And a lot of people say it's greed or whatever. I think the nature of evil is pain. I think pain is at the first step, because I think all evil can be reduced to this idea that I'm in pain. I've been wrongly pained, okay, wrongly suffered, and therefore somebody or something owes me, okay, because I was wrongly suffered. Whether they were actually wrongly suffered doesn't make any difference. I was wrongly inflicted with pain, and either people owe me, or the country owes me, or humanity owes me, or the universe, who gets metaphysical. The universe owes me, God owes me, something owes me, and I'm not getting what I'm owed, so therefore I get a free pass. Okay, I get a free pass to do whatever it is I want to do, because I've been made to suffer, and I haven't been, that hasn't been rectified. Therefore, I get a get out of jail free card, and I can do whatever I want. Okay. And that relates to the last thing I want to talk about, which is something you want to think about for yourself, and all of us, me too, is the concept of a pound of flesh. And that comes from Shakespeare, an INFP, or an ENFP, but I think he was an INFP. But it comes from Shakespeare, and that comes from The Merchant of Venice, where Shylock, this moneylender, this Jewish moneylender, has loaned money to Antonio, and what he said is that if you can't pay me, then I get to have a pound of your flesh. and he wants this because he's been, he's had a difficult time as a Jew in Italy and being made, made fun of and oppressed and things like that. And so this is sort of his revenge. And Antonio like spat at him or said something to him once. So his, he thinks this is justice. But you're not owed pain. You're not owed suffering. Just because you suffered, you're not owed someone else's suffering. What you're owed is for your suffering to end and somebody to heal you and help you. That's what justice is, and that's what you're actually owed. And the mistake we make because of selfishness is that, well, I'm in pain, I'm owed someone else's pain. Okay, I deserve to have someone else's pain and someone else suffer. As if it's money. I get to have a certain amount of pain back because I'm in pain. You have to be in pain. Okay, and I'm now owed your pain. You will give me your pain, your suffering, in payment for my suffering. And you're not owed pain. And there's something sort of inherently selfish in that. So you should think about that. And so this is what I'm going to end on, is that, to make it real, is that there's somebody out there who you want a pound of flesh from. There's somebody I want a pound of flesh from. I know that. I could say their name. But you want a pound of flesh from somebody and me. It might even be from me. How do you like that? So think about that. Who do you want your pound of flesh from? And whatever your temperament is, how are you getting it? And you'll find you're getting it. You're trying to get it the way I just said. Okay? Probably with the temperament. But remember, you're not owed a pound of flesh. No matter how much that person hurt you, you are not owed a pound of flesh. Okay? So think about that and make some theme videos.